It's quite something, isn't it? You think about kicking, I mean, kids do it, right? Almost like walking.
Yeah, totally instinctive.
But then you see like a trained martial artist,
Yeah.
and suddenly that simple move is, well, it's something else entirely. They call it a deadly weapon or an invincible tool.
It really shows you the layers, doesn't it? How something seemingly simple has this huge depth if you decide to explore it.
Exactly. Which is pretty much what we love doing here.
Yeah.
And that journey from just doing something naturally to actually mastering it.
You see that everywhere, not just physical stuff. Learning anything complex, really. You scratch the surface, then you got to deliberately dive in.
Couldn't agree more. And speaking of diving deep, one of our listeners flagged this book for us. Complete Kicking: The Ultimate Guide to Kicks for Martial Arts, Self-Defense, and Combat Sport
Oh, yeah.
by Sang H. Kim, PhD. And honestly, this thing is hefty, packed. You could probably use it as a doorstop.
Huh. Sounds comprehensive. Like a real blueprint, maybe.
Yeah,
Laying out everything from square one to, I don't know, super advanced techniques.
totally. But, you know, if you just want the core ideas, flipping through something that dense, it can feel a bit much. Like trying to drink from a fire hose.
Yeah, overwhelming. Information overload.
Exactly. So that's where we come in. Think of this as like your highlight tour. We've waded through it, the stances, the mechanics, the safety, even the spinny stuff.
Okay.
And our mission today, pretty simple, really. We want to pull out the absolute essentials. What makes a kick work?
The core principles.
Right. So whether you're deep into martial arts already or maybe just curious about how movement works, you'll get a solid foundation without, getting lost in the weeds.
Makes sense. And for anyone wanting that quick, thorough understanding, the first thing this guide hammers home is preparation.
Ah, yeah. Preparation.
Uh,
It's not just like swing your leg and hope for the best.
Not at all. There's a whole setup before you even think about the kick itself.
Okay, let's unpack that. Preparation. The book spends a good bit of time on this early on. First up, where you practice, your space. The good news, according to the book, basically anywhere flat and clear works. So you don't need a fancy dojo right away.
That's handy, but
But, and this is a big but, if you're totally new, professional instruction. Strongly recommended. Don't just wing it based on a book alone, basically.
good advice. And it actually gives tips on choosing a school, right? What to look for.
Yeah, practical stuff. Like,
Yeah.
watch the instructor. Do they seem professional, knowledgeable? Look at the students. Are they focused, respectful? Even the place itself, is it clean, well-maintained?
It's like checking the reviews before you commit. Basic due diligence for your training.
Totally. Same idea. Okay, then what to wear? Attire? Forget the tight jeans.
Definitely.
Loose-fitting clothes, that's the key. Freedom of movement, especially around your hips and knees.
No.
So shorts, sweatpants, maybe a proper martial arts uniform if you have one.
Makes total sense. Kicking needs range, rotation, you can't be restricted.
And then there's equipment. The book suggests starting simple. Maybe a chair or a wall, just for balance help.
Mhm.
Then you might move to targets for getting precise. Things like speed bags, hand targets,
For accuracy.
and eventually maybe a heavy bag for working on power and speed.
So it's a progression. Build the skills piece by piece.
Exactly. But what really stood out for me in this whole prep section was the focus on safety. Big time.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about trying that flying kick you saw in a movie on day one. Learn the movement first. Visualize it even before you try it. Know your limits. Go slow.
And that warm-up and cool-down. The 10-15-minute warm-up, 5-minute cool-down.
Crucial, yeah. The book really stresses it.
Absolutely fundamental. Like warming up your car engine, prevents injuries, gets the body ready. Essential stuff.
Okay, so you're warmed up, stretched, got the right gear on. Now what?
Now we get to the core. The foundation, your basic fighting stance, and the body mechanics behind it.
This feels like ground zero for everything else.
Pretty
Right?
much. The fighting stance is your home base, your ready position. Every kick starts from there.
And the book breaks it down quite a bit. Foot placement.
Yep. Shoulder width apart, roughly. You're weaker or non-dominant, side forward. Even the angles of the feet are specified?
Yeah, I saw that. Like
Yeah.
15, 30 degrees inward for the front foot, 60, 90 out for the rear. That's precise.
It is. And your weight, slightly more on the balls of your feet. Poised. Ready.
It's amazing how these little details add up, isn't it? That slight knee bend lowers your center of gravity, makes you more stable.
Exactly. Torso angle protects you a bit. Hands up, guarding. Shoulders relaxed, not hunched. Little rhythmic movement. It's all about being efficient and ready. not stiff.
And how your feet are positioned directly impacts your balance and kicking ability. It makes sense. It's your connection to the ground.
Definitely. Which brings us to balance itself. Super critical if you don't want to fall over after every kick.
Yeah, important.
And the book points to your knee and head position. Keep your head level, eyes on the target, that's your anchor, visually and physically.
Okay.
And that standing knee. Keep it slightly flexed, acts like a shock absorber, keeps you grounded, like suspension on a car.
Good analogy. The book also talks about this balance between control and freedom. Like you need the technique, the control.
Right, for precision.
But if you're thinking too hard about every single muscle, you get stiff, unnatural.
That's where practice comes in, building that muscle memory. You repeat it correctly enough times, it becomes more automatic. Then you can focus on the flow, the snap, not just mechanics.
Right, it becomes more intuitive. And it's not about being perfect right away. The book actually says to experiment. Try different things. Add footwork as you get better.
Yeah, it's an adaptive process. And listen to your body. If something feels off, go back to basics, adapt the instructions to your body type too, because everyone's built a bit differently.
That's a really healthy way to look at it. Problems are just like opportunities to strengthen the foundation.
Exactly. Then there's this idea of form, the relationship between your hips, chest, and knees during the kick.
Okay. Form.
Apparently that core relationship should stay pretty constant, even if your stance shifts for different kicks. Like more square for a front kick, more sideways for a side kick.
Interesting. So that's sideways turn for a side kick. That's about creating coiling force.
Exactly. You're winding up the body to unleash power for that specific kick. But the connection between hips, chest, knees, that underlying structure stays aligned.
Gotcha. And arms, not just dangling there.
Nope. Balance, protection. Find a comfortable, natural height where they guard you but don't restrict you. And knee control. That seems huge for the kick's direction.
Yeah, the clock face analogy they used was pretty helpful for visualizing that.
Right.
Where you point the knee determines the kick's path.
It really shows how even seemingly simple joint movements need deliberate control.
Okay, so we've got stance, mechanics, prep. Now the book hits the 3 kicking essentials. Base, pivot point, impact. Sounds like the recipe.
That's a good way to put it. Your base, your feet on the ground, that's the foundation. Shoulder width, maybe a bit wider for stability.
And the foot alignment changes, depending on the kick. Like we said, front kick, side kick, roundhouse.
Right. Too close or too far apart, and you lose that solid base. Then the pivot point, your standing leg.
That single leg doing a lot of work.
Totally. It needs to be smooth, quick, to help generate power, but also super stable for balance and aiming. It's the axis the kick spins around.
And it works differently depending if you're kicking with the front or back leg.
Yeah, the guide explains that interaction. Stability versus initiating the move. And finally, impact, the whole point.
High velocity, low velocity, using the foot, knee, shin.
Exactly. But it stresses it's not just brute force. Precision matters. Speed matters. Penetration matters driving through the target.
And all that stuff we talked about, stretching, breathing, the Kai-Hap shout, mental focus, it all feeds into making that impact more effective.
It's very holistic, which leads nicely into the 5 kicking stages, though it covers these fairly quickly. Ready, shift.
Right. Ready is that good stance we discussed. Balanced, guard up, focused, light on the feet. Shift is the weight transfer.
Crucial. Weight forward for a rear kick, back for a front kick.
But the key, the book says, is don't telegraph it. Keep your head level, face neutral. Don't give it away.
Yeah, that surprise element is key in combat, obviously, but also just for efficient movement. Any tell leaks energy or intention. Then, the 3 power generators, knee, hip, even the head.
Okay, power generators. The knee, or chambering as the book calls it. Bending that knee seems critical.
Dictates direction, range, power. Point the knee where you want to hit. Sharper bend, more potential power. A lazy chamber equals a weak kick. Simple as that.
Makes sense. And the hip, the primary mover, the central powerhouse.
Think about those big muscles around your core. Quick, forceful hip rotation, that's what really drives the leg out, like cracking a whip. Some kicks even add that extra hip snap at the end for more impact.
Wow. So it's really a full body thing starting from the center, not just a leg flick.
Absolutely. And the head, a stabilizer. Keeping it upright helps align the spine, allowing power to transfer efficiently from the lower body during the pivot.
If your head drops, you lose force, like uncoiling a spring wrong.
Great visual, exactly. Head up, integrate the force, which ties into the simplified kicking physics.
Physics, okay. 3 axes. Torso, thigh, shin. Force potential increases further from the origin, like the tip of that whip again.
Precisely. And they define points. Action point, where force starts. Pivot point, lower abdomen where it's amplified. Reaction point, like the knee in a roundhouse. And impact point, the foot.
And the example, right leg roundhouse. Force starts, maybe left shoulder rotation, action, goes to the lower abs, pivot, gets magnified at the right knee, reaction, driving the foot impact.
It's a clear chain of energy, and that explains why they recommend sit-ups strengthen that pivot point, the abdomen.
Right, core strength is fundamental. Okay, shifting slightly, understanding the body, looking at the key structures, anatomy for kicking.
Yeah, knowing the machine. It starts with the torso. When your form's good, it's the stable anchor. Form's bad. It introduces instability, reduces power. The eye of the hurricane analogy is pretty good.
It is. Stable center, dynamic limbs, and the spine. Complex, supportive, allows all that twisting and bending needed for kicks. Flexibility there is key.
Absolutely crucial for power and avoiding injury. Then the lower abdomen, again, the danjun or dantian, the origin of power.
And that sharp exhale, the kai-hap, tenses the abs, boosts power.
Exactly. Bracing the core, even the arms. We mentioned balance and guarding, but they also help with acceleration, force delivery. The book mentions dropping arms slightly for a higher axe kick shows how the whole body compensates and works together.
It really drives home that it's integrated movement. And the legs. Obvious tools for impact, but they work with the hips and torso. They transmit power, support weight, absorb shock. Especially the knee joint generates force, takes impact.
Which all points to integrated movement. Just practicing kicks isn't enough. You need overall conditioning.
Strength, timing, accuracy, balance, power, flexibility. Got to work on it all.
The book lists sample exercises. Plyometrics, resistance bands, core work, anti-gravity stuff, dynamic isometrics. A whole plan for overall fitness.
Makes sense. Now balance again. It gets its own section. Relationships and centering. It's about how body parts work together to maintain form.
And the key is symmetry, or at least proper weight distribution. The examples are good. Leaning forward slightly for a knee or axe kick, back slightly for a front kick, leaning away more for a side or roundhouse.
To keep your center of gravity over your support leg.
Exactly. Every kick has its own balance angle. And centering yourself, relaxed shoulders, low center of gravity, don't overextend.
And for spinning kicks, tense the lower abs to focus the center, keep limbs relaxed.
That's the tip. Helps control the rotation. And keep the torso balanced between the legs for high kicks.
Okay, digging deeper. Bones and joints. The framework. Bones aren't just protection, they're levers.
And their precise, often symmetrical arrangement. It mirrors the need for precise, balanced kicks. Spine, pelvis, legs crucial for standing, jumping kicks. Femur for power, even toes for balance.
It's intricate. The book quickly mentions major bones. Skull, tuck chin, spine, shock absorber, pectoral girdle, arms balance, pelvic girdle power, legs, femur strength. Even spinal curves help balance.
Then joints, the movement points, mechanical fulcrums. They transmit force, allow coiling and circular kicks, control speed, like that whip analogy again.
Force transmission. Coiling is prep, uncoiling is execution, like in a roundhouse or spin kick.
And joints magnify force for speed, but stiffness kills it. The chaotic whip if they're not fluid. Flexibility again. The book even sketches the sequence. Abs contract, sacrum moves, spine neck counterbalance, shoulder hip rotate. It's a cascade.
Wow. Okay, so what is balance and where does it come from? Static versus dynamic balance.
Right. Static is standing still, dynamic is moving, and it comes from multiple places. Good posture, fixing your gaze on a spot, the target ideally.
Okay.
Tactile cues from your feet, the inner ear's vestibular system, and that natural righting reflex that tries to keep you upright.
And the practical tip, if you lose balance, head up, fix your gaze first, let the body follow. Simple but effective.
Very. Now muscles. Engines of movement. They create the movement by contracting and relaxing.
Strengthening the main kicking muscles is key for power, flexibility, injury prevention.
Abs, quads, front thigh, glutes and hamstrings, back of leg. The book links specific groups to specific kicks.
And exercises, sit-ups, crunches, raises for abs, jumps, squats, lunges, running for legs. Plus stretching to avoid tightness. There's even a sample workout.
Targeted strength work is vital. Okay, before kicking. The non-negotiables. Warm up, stretch, breathe, visualize.
Right. Warm up. 15 minutes maybe. Get blood flowing, raise body temp. Muscles work better, stretch better. Start easy. Ramp up. Jumping jacks, push-ups, dynamic leg raises. Lots of options.
Then stretch. 5-10 minutes. Increase elasticity for range, strength, power. Simple, dynamic stretches before practice.
Yeah.
Different from deep flexibility work after.
Deep breathing next, 3 to 5 minutes. Relaxation, oxygen, better posture, circulation, mental clarity, mind-body link. Sounds like meditation almost.
It can be. Centers you. And finally, visualization. Mental rehearsal. Picture the side kick sequence, hip pivot. Replay it mentally till it feels right, then do it physically.
Mental reps improves coordination. Okay, the knockout points section, presented for informational purposes, right?
Exactly. Understanding vulnerabilities. Kicks here can disrupt oxygen blood to the brain, cause pain, shock the system, head jaw, neck carotid sinus, groin, solar plexus, liver kidneys, brachial plexus.
And important note, many are illegal targets in sports. So it's about awareness, self-defense context, or competition rules.
Crucial distinction. Then breathing during the kick. Specific guidelines.
For direct kicks, inhale before, sharp exhale on impact, tighten the lower belly.
Right. For stepping kicks, often inhale on the setup. Step, turn, jump. Exhale on the kick itself.
The bottom line seems to be, power comes with that focused exhale at impact.
Fundamental principle.
Now, the weaker leg challenge. Lots of people struggle with this.
The advice seems practical. Extra warm-up and stretching for that side. Start slow, controlled kicks, maybe light ankle weights. Gradually increase weight, then remove weights, but keep it slow, then build speed.
Then practice power on a bag or target. Consistency is key, like 3 times a week focus. Track progress, adjust goals, patient approach.
Definitely need that dedicated effort for well-rounded skills. Okay, pulling it together. For a great kick, key principle summarized.
1. Learn, understand, internalize the mechanics. 2. Aim reasonably. Don't overreach early. 3. Kick fast. Surprising, maybe.
Yeah, the idea is speed reduces overthinking, promotes natural adjustments, and speed feeds into penetrating force.
Not just touching, but driving through. Power from body weight, speed, distance. Focus on speed. Release the kick fully into the target. Imagine kicking inches behind it.
Get that collapsing force, not just a push. And visualization again, 2 types.
Technique specific. Step-by-step, mental walkthrough, ready, shift, pivot, kick, repose for accuracy.
And mind specific. Picture the whole thing performed perfectly, like a movie star. Focus on speed, efficiency, mental blueprinting.
Cool. Finally, an advanced example. Tips for a high side kick. Book says stomach level is usually enough, practically.
But if you want to go higher, specific exercises, horse stance variations, squat ankle holds, leg slides, assisted raises, bar, partner, wall, holding the kick in the air.
And a 12-week plan suggestion. Track progress, no limits, gradual improvement.
It really shows that even basics can be refined endlessly. Mastery is a journey.
So wrapping up this deep dive, what are the big takeaways for you from this guide?
For me, it's really clear that great kicking isn't just about the leg. It's built on really careful preparation, understanding your own body mechanics, and integrating everything. Balance, core power, breath, focus. It's a whole body skill. And that consistent, mindful practice, pushing yourself but listening to your body, that seems to be the path.
Absolutely. It's that mix, isn't it? Something natural, yet needing so much conscious effort to master.
Yeah.
Which, makes you think, how many other things that we do, things that feel simple, actually have all these hidden layers, all this potential for refinement, if we just, practice deliberately, beyond what just feels natural.
That's definitely something to kick around.
Maybe something for our listeners to explore in their own way, perhaps taking their own deep dive somewhere unexpected.